What does Zone 2 training look like? I'm going to dive into quite a short video on a few things to really look out for with Zone 2 and why do we do it? Why is it important? It's one of the most important metrics, physiological zones to training for endurance athletes, no matter what your sport. Cycling, I'm on the bike, indoors, running especially, swimming the same. We're going to look at those three being a triathlon coach. Now, the benefit of using an indoor trainer is intensity control. So how hard should you be going? Now, we'll use the holy triad really: heart rate, RPE, rate of perceived exertion, and power coming from the drivetrain or the pedals. However, Zone 2 training should look like this. I should be able to have a conversation, should be able to have a phone call. It might be a bit annoying for the other person on the other side, but if you can't have a conversation, you definitely aren't in your steady state or your Zone 2. So let's just touch on heart rate. Some days I could be at 120 beats on the bike, and some days up to 130. So there's quite a big range. It depends on what state you go into the bike ride, into the session at. The power could be as low as 160 for me, 170 watts, and some days for the same heart rate, 200 watts. Now, I like to check in using one of these, ideally under 2 millimoles, so kind of 1.7, 1.9 millimoles, but you don't have to have one of those. It's not essential and they're very expensive, especially the lactate strips. I only use it every now and then to monitor. I don't train with it very regularly. Power, it can fluctuate from day to day depending on the other sports. So the most important thing is, can you hold a conversation? Are you burning in the legs? That's wrong. So Zone 2, a few times a week. How long? Well, it depends what your goal is. If you're a beginner starting out, 30 minutes at Zone 2 3 times a week is a great place to start. You might find that really hard to keep your heart rate down, and that's why you really need it. So you've got to go slower to get faster. The same with running. It's super hard, and patience is a virtue. You have to walk sometimes, so it's humbling. But if you develop that low Zone 2 area, it leads to faster running. Okay, so I've mentioned those areas: heart rate, power, RPE. Power is kind of irrelevant. You can have good days, fresh days. It's about 60 to 70% of your max heart rate is Zone 2. That also depends on which zone model you're using. So why do we do it? We build mitochondrial efficiency, so we get better at making energy. We burn more fat as fuel, which is ultimately what we want to be. That enhances our metabolic flexibility, your body's ability to use fat as fuel and carbohydrates as fuel. Of course, we get better at endurance. We build endurance. So it's a vital place to spend your time. When you go outside, depending on your terrain, you have hills, it spikes your power and your heart rate. It's very difficult, especially with when you ride with others. So I really highly recommend you do 6 to 8 week block of steady state Zone 2 training, where you'll be able to monitor your heart rate drop over a period of 8 weeks. Start at 30 minutes 3 times a week, build up to 75 minutes. That's kind of the sweet spot. Some people can tolerate sitting on an indoor turbo for 90 minutes. And then after about 8 weeks, the idea is to bring in some intensity once you've plateaued at a power and a heart rate effort. More of this to follow. Please subscribe to the channel so you can see the next lot of videos coming out.